The deficit now stands at $779 billion. And the deficit, of course, is the difference between what the government takes in and what it spends.
It's very disturbing, and it's driven by the three big entitlement programs that are very popular: Medicare, Social Security, and Medicaid.
But the data points elsewhere. One of the biggest contributing factors to this deficit spike, the GOP tax cuts. According to Treasury data, tax revenues from corporate returns dropped 31% in the fiscal year 2018 compared to the same period last year, which would be strange because companies are making more money than they have made before. Congress knocked off more than $1 trillion worth of forecasted tax revenue and boosted government spending at the same time. It stands in stark contrast to the promises from Trump officials and from congressional Republicans before the tax cuts passed.
Not only will this tax plan pay for itself, but it will pay down debt.
I'm confident this is not only revenue neutral to the government, but actually is very likely to be a revenue producer.
We're right there in the sweet spot. With economic growth that gives us more revenue, we're where we need to be.
And that every single Republican who commented on this issue a year ago and said revenues would rise or that they would not fall, I'm talking about Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell, Steve Mnuchin, they were all lying. They're liars. They knew that they were lying when they said those things. And they wanted revenues to fall because they wanted the deficit to rise. Because
why is that? Why would a Republican want the deficit to rise?
Because what they really want to do is cut entitlement programs. They want to cut those programs that Mitch McConnell talked about: Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. And they understand they're very politically popular. They can only be cut when there is a deficit so large that people are frightened and they feel we have no choice. And that has been their goal for 40 years.
And in a Gallup poll from last week, it shows that 2/3 of people polled have not seen an increase in take-home pay from the GOP tax cuts.
Hashtag, where's my $4,000?
Right.
Look, of course wages didn't go up $4,000. Of course the tax plan is unpopular because people are looking at it. What happened? They cut taxes by $2 trillion for high-income people and large corporations. And lo and behold, we lost $2 trillion.
This is what Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell had to say about it then. Bruce, listen to this.
He doubles the debt after his term in office and triples it by the end of his budget. He sends our debt on an upward trajectory that is completely unsustainable.
What's reckless, Bob, is the $1.6 trillion deficit we're running this year.
I mean, remember back to the end of the Clinton administration when we had budget surpluses.
Yeah.
And we had surpluses because of legislation that raised taxes that every Republican voted against. And then when the surplus emerged, they tried to take credit for it. And George W. Bush inherited those surpluses, and the very first thing he did was have a big tax cut, and then another big tax cut, and then another big tax cut. If we had just kept taxes and spending on automatic pilot from January 2001, by the end of the Bush administration, we would have paid off the national debt. So basically, Republicans, they just make up these lies about the deficit. They love the deficit. That is the truth of the matter, because that is what gives them the political wherewithal to cut spending, which is what they really care about, and only spending that helps people. They want to increase spending for the military. So the truth is they love deficits.
The Republican Party has not learned anything from this episode of tax cutting blowing up the deficit. They've already proposed what they're calling Tax Reform 2.0, which is another multi-trillion-dollar tax cut for high-income people and big corporations. And then the second thing that you're going to see start to happen is they're going to try to cut entitlements, and then when it becomes so obvious that how unpopular that is with the American people, they're going to try to blame that on Democrats. So you've seen them in the midterm elections here about health care and Obamacare. The Republicans trying to claim that they're the ones trying to protect the ban on using pre-existing conditions, and that they're trying to extend health care to all Americans when they have actually been trying to repeal Obamacare and get rid of those.